Welcome, everybody. Again, this is day 2 of Nest Flight. We're so excited to have you here today. Happy Tuesday. I want to just say quickly, again, as I started off yesterday, one of the things that we definitely miss about having Nest Flight in person is being able to have these one-on-one connections. But we are really set on making sure that this year we still incorporate the connection pieces. So thanks to everybody who's already participated in the chat and is already sharing where they're from. Yesterday, several folks were also shouting out their alma maters. So really, really thankful to have people from as far as El Paso, Texas, to Watsonville, to Stockton, which is where I'm located myself today. For those of you that didn't have a chance to get to know me yesterday, my name is Amber Michelle Gonzalez Vargas. I am the daughter of Marco Gonzalez and Silvia Vargas, two immigrants from the beautiful country of Peru. One of the most lovely things about being and taking these meetings from home is I can have my little flag with me too. I am a very proud Peruana, and I was born and raised in California. A little bit about my story for those of you that don't know. I went to undergrad at UC Berkeley. I majored in political economy and French with a minor in global poverty and practice with the full intention of going somewhere else in the world to create impact. And right before I graduated in December of 2014, there was a Black Lives Matter protest, which completely redirected the trajectory of my career. That protest and the conversations I had afterwards really redirected my impact to want it to be local and specifically with the Latinx community. So all of that completely changed sort of what I had been looking at, which originally was like Peace Corps, NGOs. And luckily, I found my way to the Latino Community Foundation just 1 year after graduating from my undergraduate career. And that was actually thanks to a LinkedIn search, to a cold email that I actually sent to one of the mentors that's there today. And a quick shout out and hello to Eliana. Who really helped me sort of find my path to Latino Community Foundation, where I'm currently the senior program manager managing the largest Latinx donor network in the country, our Latino Giving Circle network. And I'm sharing all of that because one of the things that is our main focus at Nestflight is to help you all find your dream careers. I can tell you genuinely that I feel like I have my dream job. I am so fulfilled and happy every single day of my life because I feel like I'm fulfilling my personal mission of mobilizing Latinx talent towards social justice. And our goal and our vision for all of you Nest Flight attendees is to help you find yourselves and land in the same place. So I, again, am Amber Gonzalez Vargas. I'm really excited to be guiding you through this virtual conference. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator for the First Gens in Tech panel discussion, Martin Vargas Vega, who's a software engineer at Habu. I'm really excited to welcome Martin. Martin's not just an awesome human. I'm also very lucky to call him a friend. I've been able to see his own tech journey from Digital Nest to Habu and everything in between. Martin's not just an awesome human, not just a philanthropist, not just a kind human being. He's also an awesome dancer. So that's a fun fact about Martin that you all get to know. You can't see his dance moves today, unfortunately, because we're in this virtual space and the backgrounds don't always help out. But maybe someday you'll be in for a treat and see him with his dance troupe. Well, without further ado, I will pass over the virtual mic to Martin, so you can go ahead and introduce the rest of these amazing panelists who are here to talk a little bit more about their experience as first gens in tech. So Martin, go ahead and take it away.
All right, awesome. Well, Amber, thank you so much. I just also wanted to say, should I hold till 5:30 or should I just keep going? If any people are trying to come in, you tell me.
Give me 1 second.
No problem. In the meantime, I will use this time to introduce why we're doing this and the amazing people that are here, for the people that are here, and I'll do it again twice. So we're doing this because we wanted to share experience of individuals that have either just broken into tech or have had experience to do that. But I also want to make sure that anyone that wanted to be here, we can share that time with them. One of the things that we did want to know, or the panelists did want to know, for anyone here, if you have a job idea that you want to pursue, please put that in the chat. That'll help us a lot. One of our goals as part of panelists is to try to help connect some of you. So if some of you say, I want to be a software engineer, boom, there's 3 people on this panel that can help you get there. Or if you want to do a PM or stuff like that, or graphic design, put that in, and I hope that we can help you out. But I'll wait for Amber to give me the green light. If not, I'll entertain you. I can bring up my Rubik's Cube. I can bring up my little dog.
Got it, Martin. You can actually go ahead and get started. I believe that all the panelists are here. We are a little bit early, but I think we're okay to go. We want to make sure that our attendees are getting all of the information that they can from you all. So we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. Because I told my panelists, like, oh, it's at 5:30. I'm like, wait, I didn't tell them what would happen if we were early. Okay, so bueno. I just want to, before we start and do any of this, I just want to give a huge shout out to Habu. Habu is the company that I work for, and they didn't ask me to do this. I'm just doing it because I also want to show and recognize what an ally is in this space. And okay, thank you, Steve. And they have not only graciously supported and sponsored this event, but also support me in the endeavors that I'm doing outside of the technology world. And so what Habu is, at the moment, we're a data clean room company. And you might be, you might be surprised of why we're doing this type of work. But not only do we think that we can advance technology, but we also want to do that in the pathway to creating equal access to education. And that's where not only does Habu align with the NES and everything that we're doing, they have so graciously been a leader and a thought leader in this space. So I want to give a huge shout out to them. Also for some of my colleagues that are here as well, thank you for showing the support. It means the world to me. So now let's go on forward. I think we are missing one of the panelists, but for the moment, I will introduce the ones that are here. I will introduce them by sharing a story. We have set up time for them to share their own individual story. So I'm gonna allow them to introduce themselves, but I'm gonna start with Itzel Ventura Munoz. Itzel is one of the most amazing, caring individuals you'll ever meet in the world. Her accolades speak for herself. If you ever reached out to Itzel and say, Itzel, I am navigating the tech world, I have no idea what to do, she will not only uplift you, but brings this energy to you that you didn't even know you had. I've had the honor to know Itzel for about 2 years, maybe. And the way we met is through a conference like this. I was just kind of walking around, not really knowing like what I was doing. I was trying to find myself in the world of tech. And I turned around and Itzel was there, and I was like, hi, Itzel. Or I didn't know her name. I was like, hi, you're here, I'm here. What do you want to go in life? And after that, a long-lasting relationship was born, because not only were we hungry to get a job, we were unemployed, but we were so ambitious. And I'm so thankful to have her here and for her to say yes. So Itzel, feel free to say who you are, and then you'll obviously introduce yourself later.
Thank you, Martin. Yes, I still remember that day where we were all trying to figure out how to get into tech and everything. But so thank you, first of all, for inviting me to share space with so many individuals. And I'm really excited about this. Just a little bit about me. So I'm originally from Mexico City, but I was raised here in California in the Bay Area. I'm currently working at Cisco as a QA automation engineer. What that means QA, it's quality assurance. So what I do is I write scripts to simulate as if a user is using our software. And through that, we find bugs where we tell the engineers to fix them. And I work really close to the designers as well to make sure that it's a great experience when the user is using it. But a little bit how I got into Cisco. A little bit of my background, I actually have a mathematics degree from San Francisco State. I graduated from there with a mathematics degree because I wanted to become a teacher. Growing up, I didn't have someone or a math teacher that looked like me, and I wanted to be that teacher. But unfortunately, because of my legal status during that time, I was unable to continue my dream to become a teacher because you need a social security, and I didn't have that. So then what was next? I was thinking about a master's. Same thing happened. I didn't have a social security. I couldn't get financial aid or any loan. So my next option was going back to community college. Actually, here in San Francisco, there's certificates for Android and Java. And those are kind of like my introduction more into computer science. And I did those because I already had a degree and I just needed like projects. So that's why I went back to community college. And during that time, I was able to finally get my residency. And I'm like, okay, I have everything. I have a degree, I have certificates, and I have a social. So let's go and like look for a job. But it wasn't that easy. I bumped into many obstacles. But because of community like this and events, I was able to continue my dream into getting into tech because I got into an apprenticeship program where we actually met. Someone told me about the apprenticeship program, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But that was kind of like my introduction into tech and how I got into tech because of an apprenticeship program. But thank you.
Awesome, Ethan. So now I'm going to introduce Melissa and Liliana, and then they will also tell their story as well. Same thing, their accolades speak for themselves. There's so much I could say about them. And again, I'm going to share a story of how we all met, because I think it's important for all of you to know that these connections happen organically, and it's, to not be intimidated, to welcome those energies. So I'm going to start with Melissa first. So, and I don't know if she remembers. At the time, I was going through a boot camp. I had no idea. I was like, what am I going to do? Where am I going? And Melissa was there, and I'm like, wow, she's amazing. Because she was, I don't know if you were a technical mentor or just a developer as well, but she had gone through it. And it was the first time ever in my life that I'm like, oh my God, I can relate to someone. Like they know what I'm going through. And I don't have to say, so I'm an apprentice and I don't have a degree, but don't think I am not qualified because I don't have a degree. And it was the first time where those conversations never had to happen. Melissa was like, I get you. I see you, all of you. I don't need you to have a degree for us to communicate. And then after that, I just kept bugging her, and I'm like, hey, and we were just we just became, again, lifelong friends. So Melissa, I appreciate and honor you, and thank you for being here. And now I'm going to introduce Liliana, and then we'll go, and then Melissa, Liliana, tell your story after. So Liliana, man, when I first met Liliana, I thought she was a CEO, hands down. Reason for that is, when me and Melissa both know this, because when we first met Liliana, or at least when I first met Liliana, it was at Netflix. And she was just commanding everyone. She was like, y'all need to go here, y'all need to go do this. I need this on this is how it's gonna happen. And I'm like, oh my God, like she's just commanding everyone like with grace. And then the way Liliana, I've always tried to, perfect my Spanish, but if you ever listen to Liliana speak Spanish, it's like music. And I'm like, Liliana, like if I could have you on a podcast telling me like how to code. And so ever since then, Liliana is like all the panels as well. They are powerhouses as well. Later in the panel, you'll hear about what she was doing at Netflix and the impact of how we all connected through that. It allowed me to create one of the best moments in my life, where I got to dance El Caballo Dorado in the Netflix lobby at 12 p.m. next to two sharks. So that's something that I will always cherish, and that's how I got connected to Liliana. So with that, Melissa, I will allow you to introduce yourself. The floor is yours.
Thank you for your permission, Martin. So happy to be here, everybody. So I'll tell a similar blurb like Itzel did. So I'm originally from Argentina. I was born there. I lived there for 10 years. And then I moved to the States. My pathway into technology is a little bit different. I went to university for political economy. That's what brought me to the Bay Area. All of a sudden, I was immersed in this world where technology was everywhere. I was meeting software engineers. I was meeting founders of companies left and right. I was meeting international people. It really widened my world to go to university. But it wasn't like I had been dreaming about going to college my whole life. It was like something I was supposed to do. So when I got there, I didn't know what I was doing. So I ended up with a degree in political economy that till this day I have never used. And after college, I ended up working in the food industry. So I didn't know how to leverage my degree. So I was working at a sushi restaurant. And then later I went to work at a froyo shop, so minimum wage. And, free froyo makes anyone happy, so it was okay. And I landed my first job in technology by uploading my resume to the internet. And being a Spanish speaker was actually the superpower. It's what drew the hiring manager to look at my resume. And I ended up working at Twitter. I was a content moderator at Twitter, left, right. So, pathways to success is like a zigzag. So I went to work at Twitter as a content moderator. And then I went on to work at Facebook, doing something similar. And around this time, I had a big life event. So I went to visit Argentina, and I found out that my dad was sick. And it turned out that he had early onset dementia. And that's what essentially catapulted my journey into technology, in being a software engineer. Like it said, like Martin, I decided to do a coding bootcamp to accelerate my financial well-being. And I applied to every bootcamp I could find. I applied to every scholarship, and I got really, really lucky because one of them had a partnership with Adobe, and Adobe ended up paying for my bootcamp and also lined up an internship for me that was paid. Internships in tech are paid, and paid well. And now I'm still there. I'm still at Adobe. I'm a software developer. I've been promoted, and I love the culture. And you never know where life is going to take you, but once you make that choice, you can do everything that it takes to get there. Okay, next.
Hey. No, thank you, Melissa. Like I said, every single one of these individuals are amazing. Their stories are amazing, and I'm just happy that we can share them with all of you. We're going to hear about Liliana right now. Yeah, feel free to introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me here in general, making some time to attend events like these, because I think these are the type of events that actually expose me to the grandiosity of what it means to be in tech, but also in general, the community that is there, that can be supportive of your growth in it. Because as we all know, we are here because it can be a very difficult space to be in, and there is so many ways to get there. And the proof of them is the people in this panel. I'm really grateful and honored to be part of this with all of you. As you know, my name is Liliana. I do go by Lily, so just make sure, check in on LinkedIn, reach out to me. I'm down to talk. I personally felt like I also didn't know what I was doing much, but I always knew education, of course, was a path to get to where I wanted to be, but I didn't know where that wanted to be was, right? I was actually born and raised in Mexico, which is why I am fluent in Spanish. But my family is Chinese. So with its own immigrant, struggles and just the stories there, it had been very difficult for me to know where I wanted to be without it being tied to, what my family wanted, and finding out what I really could do and actually wanted to do. So when I migrated to San Francisco, I was actually 15, and I was not qualified for DACA. And so a lot of those things, I was not sure how to navigate it. And I feel like I only found the power after I was able to talk about it and talk to people like in this community, but also just professionals that don't necessarily know what to do. You just have to ask them. And you will go through times that it's difficult to share it or to just know what to say. And a lot of doors will be shut in front of you. That's how I felt at first, but finding the community, what drove me to be able to feel comfortable in my own skin now and just speaking about it. So actually, when I got into Berkeley, I actually just thought about going to any college, and I happened to be in San Francisco. Berkeley was right there. I applied. Of course, it was a very good alignment at that moment because I was not navigating all of this on my own. So I was very lucky to get that quality education. And from there, find that community within Berkeley who gave me the access to even explore what tech meant. So actually graduating from college, I had no idea what to do, but there was this specific fellowship that was accepting people who were undocumented, and they were paid by doing fellowships. From there, I met incredible people that were actually within the immigrant movement. And so from there, being in the Bay Area, there was also that intersection of being in tech and being an immigrant, and how immigrants are the backbone of this industry as well. And so from there, I took what I found out, and I'm like, okay, what can I do with this? And so from there, I started to explore more opportunities. So I was able to land, actually randomly, the opportunity to create a hackathon alongside other people, and that's how I met a lot of amazing people here. I did not know how to do it, but it happened, and thankfully with ERGs, so employee resource groups within Netflix, they supported our movement and actually directly funded the entire hackathon. We were able to partner with a local nonprofit that was, well, I guess a startup also, the Dreamers Roadmap, and the UCLA Labor Center. So a lot of different parties came in together to make this amazing hackathon that was 3 days. And we were flying people from everywhere, even people who have no access to this type of jobs and opportunities in other parts of the country who are undocumented. So that really excited me. Like, it made me very inspired to continue to do this path. But of course, I still had the limitation of being undocumented. And so from there, I landed a local job and continued to push through that. But I always had Dreamers in Tech on the side, so I could continue pushing for that dream, whether that was just being active in this community, just being a person to talk to when you're going through different things. I feel like I could always do that. And it has been a lot of work to make it this far, but we are able to do this because of people like yourselves who are tuning in with us and volunteering and putting in their time to host events like these. So from there, actually, recently got my green card. So I got really lucky on that end. And I was like, this is my moment to jump into a tech job, but I did not know how to code. I tried to do JavaScript. It was very difficult as you go in further, but I think definitely try it out just so you at least know what it means. And from there, going to events like these so and get familiar with terms of tech, I was able to use that leverage a little bit in my business degree to actually go into this job, which is Odoo. It's an ERP open source system, and don't know anything about it. But when I was in the interview, I was prepping and understanding everything that was going on. So I was okay, I can do this. I have some knowledge. I did this, I did that. And then somehow landed this job that is focused on people, but it's still a tech company. So there's a lot to learn. So I'm very tired trying to learn everything because I have not ever been in the space that moves this fast. But it is a space that, I was trying to be in, and it's always a stepping stone to something else that I want to do. So I hope that, feel free to ask any questions, and I hope that any of that can be helpful for any of you today.
Liliana, thank you so much. So something that I want to say that I didn't get to say, this whole conversation, we are going to be very vulnerable with all of you. We're going to talk about the real side of technology, the good, the bad, the ugly, the things that we didn't really know. So know that coming in, if something resonates with you, if you have a question that you want to ask, maybe you don't want to ask it on the chat, maybe you want to DM us personally, feel free to do that. At the end, we also will put hopefully the links of our LinkedIns, so y'all are free to connect with us. If you don't have a LinkedIn or have an email, do that as well. So I just wanted to prefix that. The other thing also is at the end, we'll have a Q&A. We've allocated 15 minutes because we think that that's really important, because we have, we want to give you all as much information as you can. And we are very open and honest about about tech, because one of the things that we have all noticed, and we did our pre-panel talk, is that getting into technology, it's really easy to give up. It's a really, really difficult thing to do. It's really difficult if you're alone. If you don't have anyone that can tell you like, hey, this is how you should do it, this is where you should connect with. And hopefully through the questions and through our panel, we can help demystify tech, but not only that, make it so that you not only feel that you need to be there, you are wanted there. That is the environment that we all collectively want to create. And that's why, all of us are here, and we want to see all of you in those positions. With that, I will share a little about myself. And then after that, we're going to go straight into the panel because we don't have that much time. What you need to know is this. I grew up in the city of Watsonville to Maria Vargas and Tomas Vargas. The reason why I got into tech is because as I was picking berries, or just any in this field, I realized how much money agriculture companies were making. And I'm like, how am I and my family making $3 a box? And then these individuals are shipping this box to France and selling it for $20 or whatever, right? They are 10xing off the hard work that I see my parents do, that I see my community do. And in my head, I'm like, I'm not gonna have that happen. I wanted to get a tech in high school, but never could because my requirements to get into a university, my counselor was like, if you apply, you are more than likely going to get rejected. But if you apply to something else that isn't technical, you are more likely to get in. At that time, being able to survive was pretty much the highest priority that I had. And I'm like, you know what, I'll do whatever I need to do to get into to school. Fast forward, I went to Cabrillo for 5 years, stumbling along, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And ultimately, I knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to get into tech. And then that's when Jacob came. If you don't know Jacob, Jacob's an amazing individual. He was actually pitching the Nest to a class that I was mentoring. So the message wasn't even for me. But when he said it, like, we want to create this space, at the time, there was no Nest, there was no Salinas, there was no Gilroy, there was none of that. I was like, yo, I believe in that. I want to be part of that. So it's amazing now that we are at the space where not only do we have, I think, 50 mentors. In my head, I'm like, what if we have too many mentors for attendees? And in my head, I'm like, yo, that's amazing. Because at the beginning, when we started this, I was like, I was sitting at the Nest thinking, like, I want someone to come in and be like, Martin, I want to give you a job. I'm like, yeah, because I need it and I want it and I need it, and I wanted to do that. Fast forward, I tried to break into tech any way I could. I learned how to do graphic design, not that good at it. I learned how to edit videos, not that good at it. I did project management. So for any of you that work at business or have heard about business, I did that. I was like the first one to build that up, which eventually led me to the same program that Melissa did with Adobe. And that was a movie on its own. I was like living out of my car. I was couch surfing. So for each month that I had at that apprenticeship, I was at someone else's house. And which was amazing because I got to live at different places, but also it was really hard of trying to figure out, like, I get to cook between like 6 and 7 or whatever that looked like, and which is fine. But I remember I'm like, this will make a great movie. Went to Adobe, got an internship, didn't get a technical internship, but I'm like, I will take whatever, and then spend about a year trying to get to land myself into tech. And if it honestly wasn't for all of these individuals on this panel, I would have given up. Because something that resonates with all of us is that we try to break into an industry that says they want us, that says they need diversity. We go on Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, and you see all of these jobs, and you're like, yo, I can do that. You want me to write documentation? I can write documentation. You want me to write bugs or fix bugs? I can fix bugs. You want me to file paper? I will do that. And that's the mindset that I have, that I would go in there, kill it, whatever I was doing, and lateral my way into a software engineering role. A year later, Nestflight, which was a year ago or 2 years ago, had a panelist known as, his name is Tom Chavez. He was there, and I swear to you, everything that he's done in his life, I'm like, that's what I wanted to do. Like, I want to create a foundation that helps, fund Latino-led nonprofits. I want to create an incubator where we can not only get VC money, but fund startups that are led by people of color. And I wanted, just to kick ass in tech. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy, he's done it. And to me, all of that was a dream, and that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for something like this. Now I'm in an engineering position at Habu, very grateful, and they have showed me what it really means to be an ally. Something that we share together is that we don't have the answer, and we don't pretend like we do, but we also are making the effort to be able to support, values that we support. We're not trying to fake it like, hey, we're gonna change the world. But we're not also just standing idly by thinking like, oh, once someone has a solution, that's when we're going to jump in, because that's not working. And we need spaces for all of you now. Bueno, with that, that's just a little about me. If you want to know more, feel free to reach out. Now I'm going to go into the panel part. So some of these questions will be very difficult, but we also know that we would not be doing all of you any service if we hid or didn't share everything about what the tech field is like and the tech experience is like. Because for something that resonates with all of us is, once we started sharing our story, not only did we find someone we can lean on, we felt that we weren't alone. That that it was normal to feel these things. It was normal to think like, yo, why do they want us? I thought, companies preach that they want diversity, but we're out here trying to do it And is it us? Is it, we weren't getting that feedback, and now that's kind of what we hope to do. So this is for anyone. Oh, also disclaimer. I wrote a huge list of questions, gave it to the panelists to be like, hey, this is what y'all should prepare. I came here yesterday and realized, no, that's not what you all need. Threw that away, made a new list. And now for some of them, it might be the first time they're hearing it. So disclosure, but we we just wanted to make sure that we can give you the most raw, honest answers that will help you in your career, that will help someone else, and that hopefully can land you your job. And not only land you your job, but be able to progress in that job. So yeah, cool. Bueno, so let's just start with the first one. And this can be for anyone in the panel. Feel free to answer as you'd like. So like any other industry, we have the good and the bad. Your stories about harassment on LinkedIn, unwanted advances on social platforms, exploitation of POCs in this space. What are the bad sides of tech you didn't know were there or thought didn't exist anymore? And this can be for anyone. I will start out with a story for me because I know this is something that y'all should know. I thought as soon as I got a job, the questions of like, are you sure you can code? Are you sure you know what you're talking about? Would stop. So 2 incidents happened. One thing, about a month or 2 months into getting my first like apprenticeship role with Switchbit or Habu Switchbit at the time, was I would go to networking events and I would say, oh, this is how I was able to do it, blah, 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 right? And the one thing that I kept hearing was individuals that didn't look like me could just say, I'm a founder, I'm an engineer, I'm a whatever, and would not get challenged on that. I said, I'm a software engineer. And they're like, oh, well, did you get a degree? And they're like, and I'm like, oh, no. Oh, okay, well, show me, open your laptop. I want to see your code. Like, I don't believe you. And would challenge me at everything to see, A, if I knew what I was talking about, and B, what's ultimately the cause of that is they were wondering, how did I make it happen without a degree and stuff like that? And I think it came from a space of, I'm trying to make it too, and I don't know why you were able to do it. And it was just weird because then I would ask my manager, I'm like, do y'all ever get asked, like, are you an engineer? Like, is this normal? And I want to tell all of you that is not. But that is a space that it still exists where as a non-traditional engineer, that will happen. And the way I encourage anyone to do that is just handle it with grace and saying, you know what, I feel your pain. I think I understand that you're going through a difficult time. Let me see how I can help you. And that made him even more mad because, and it was a white gentleman. He was very upset, but I was like, I'm willing to extend that hand to you. The other thing that I thought wouldn't happen to me in San Francisco, but it did, was during the Black Lives Matter movement. Once we kind of knew, and COVID as well, and I say Black Lives Matter movement because it happened specifically then I think in July. Once we knew we weren't really going back to our office, we had the opportunity to kind of go to our office and pick up a screen. At the time, like I don't have excessive amount of money to be able to buy a screen, so I'm like, I'm gonna go get it from my office. I did. As I was leaving it, I obviously don't have like a fancy car. I don't have anything like that. I tenía una toalla. I wrapped the monitor in a toalla. I was walking down San Francisco, a block away from the mall, and this guy stops me, and he's like, "Did you steal that?" And in my head, I'm like, "Oh man." And I at first I was like, sorry, I was like, "Oh no," because I was like, I just worked there. I walked 5 minutes away, and this person is challenging me right now, saying, did you steal that monitor? And obviously, sure, yeah, that's why maybe I should have brought a bag, but I didn't want to damage it because I was scared to damage the property from my company. I didn't want to be in that position where I had to owe someone anything. But in my head, I'm just like, okay, this is where in my head, I thought as soon as I'm in tech like that's not gonna happen anymore. But it does. And I just told him, look, I have this badge. I work here. I can tell you the company name. I can tell you can call my employer, do whatever you need to do. But I'm not gonna wait for you to call the cops to say, I think you stole this monitor. So where I'm going with this is I thought that discrimination, that stuff in tech would kind of go away, but it's not. And it's something that you're gonna have to be aware with that. And just acknowledge who you are and just be confident that like I'm here, I deserve to be here. And just because someone is upset with me or it has anger towards me, it's not necessarily towards you, but it's something that I can't or we can't stop from happening. So we want to acknowledge that it's there. So feel free to anyone else. I know it's kind of heavy, but.
Oh, that's crazy. Thank you for sharing. What comes to my mind it's when I was already in the space in tech. You're learning, you're asking questions, and people encourage you to keep asking. That's how you learn. So I was in a place where I didn't understand some code. So I went to one of my peers and asked for a question for what it was or why he did something then instead of this. And before he even tried to explain me, he turned around and he was like, there's no point of me explaining to you because you don't have a computer science degree. So you won't understand it. And I'm just like, I'm thinking like, is this really happening? Like, wait, I'm already here. So I'm like, I gave it a couple of seconds and I'm like, but are you going to show me or like, and he's like, but there's no point. There's no point of me showing to you or explaining to you. You won't understand. So I'm like, okay. I seriously, like after that meeting, I went to the bathroom and I cried. Like, I'm going to be honest, because I felt that maybe it wasn't for me. Maybe I wasn't smart enough. But luckily I was able to reach out to my mentors. And this is why I'm so thankful for the people that I surround myself, because of the community, because of my mentors, because of my family. I'm able to push and keep going, because then it gets me to think like I've come so far to get to the same place where that person was. So I know I'm worth it. I know I belong here. So just breathe and keep doing you, Itzel, because you belong here. So it was hard, but it definitely like took me like out of my place. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, but just keep pushing. You're gonna find people that will not support you, but you're gonna find tons of other people that will support you, and we're gonna be there for you, not just within the company, but outside of the company. So keep those person close to you and cherish them, because there are gonna be times that are gonna be tough. Being a woman, being Latina, being non-traditional, so there's definitely going to be bumps, and I think in any industry, it's just how you deal with this stuff and know that you're worth it. And later I learned that it's not okay, so you have to say something. You shouldn't be just quiet. So I'm learning on that still, but now I know how to handle these situations, and now I'm able to let them know like, hey, that's not okay. And because we need to teach those persons that, hey, that's not okay. I don't know, but that's one of my times that I'm just like, whoa, this actually does happen here too. So just don't give up. It's not going to be easy, but again, be surrounded with people that are going to keep pushing you to do better, and that's all that matters.
I have two examples. One of them was from someone who went to my coding bootcamp. We were at a party at the bootcamp, and he had been drinking, and he came to me and he started telling me that the only reason that I got the opportunity at Adobe is because I'm a woman. He essentially tried to boil down all of my hard work and all of my accomplishments down to my gender. And if that were true, we would not have a gender disparity in tech. And also, it's kind of, we are making a push right now for diversity in the tech industry, and I think that's a good thing. But we cannot boil down success by women or POCs or underrepresented minorities down to those features or characteristics, because there are still lots of barriers. Itself just showcase that people have biases based on what you look like or what they assume about you. The other example that I just remembered as y'all were talking is before I ever decided to become a software engineer, I think this was around the time I was a content moderator at Facebook. I decided to go to a big tech conference because I was like, I'm in the tech industry, I'm in the Bay Area, there's always these big events. And I went to something called the Intel Developers Conference. So I didn't know anything about coding, and everyone was mostly white and mostly male. And I met this man and I thought he was really nice, and we were talking, and turns out he was trying to hit on me, and he was at least twice my age. And later on, he messaged me and he tried to offer me favors to help me get into tech. He was like, oh, I have lots of money. I can make it easy for you. I never talked to that person again. There will be people who offer you help. I think we have to be very mindful of people who are trying to honestly help us and people who are trying to take advantage of us. There is obviously a power dynamic and disparity in age, in money, and that's something that you need to be mindful of. And the third thing that I want to showcase in terms of like the ugly is that we have to work extra hard to not internalize the biases ourselves. So when we look at ourselves in the mirror, are we thinking what we think other people should think about us? See, it's like mind-blowing. It's like, do I believe in me, or am I thinking that I'm less than because of all of the things I hear outside of myself? So that's the extra challenge that underrepresented minorities face. But we have each other to kind of, push that out.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing. Liana, I know we are running out of time, so feel free. I know you also messaged me through Slack, so I can do whatever you want to do next.
Yeah, no, thank you both for sharing. I think that's why I find it so inspirational to have, you both here too. Particularly for me, I just started in this space, even though with Dreamers in Tech, I've been doing it for a while. The main point to that would be that being in the undocumented space, it's very hard for people to know who identifies that way, because a lot of the times we hear stories that people don't want to say their background because of fear that they will be ostracized or treated that way. So we do have that challenge when we try to create a space for dreamers in tech to thrive. And we do have a lot of people that are very inspirational, but then there's the gap of those that do not say anything, stay quiet, are not willing, or they just can't, for many reasons, to step out, right, and do it for themselves. Like Melissa said, make sure they are doing it for themselves and believing in themselves. So that is a challenge that we have in this community, but that we are hoping to continue growing in this space when we do events like these.
Thank you so much, Liana. And with that, now let's go through the opposite spectrum. Let's talk about the awesome things about technology, which are, why we're here and why we don't want to scare you all away like, wow, I'm going to log out. I don't want to do Nestlight anymore. No, it's just more we want to be open and honest with you. And this is for Liana. To me, what you and your team were able to do at Netflix is the epitome of leveraging technology to create opportunity. I will let Liana speak about it, but think about bringing all like the superheroes across the country into one space to move together collectively to create opportunities for immigrants in the Silicon Valley. I'm like, oh, okay, and I just want you to speak more about that. It's also the same thing with streamers in tech. And I say you and we because we're all part of it, but speak a little bit about just the thing and how our communities can really leverage tech and what it's creating for all of us.
Yes, thank you, Martin. I think a big part of it, and this is a story that I did hear, and I wish that more people are able to talk about it, is being in different parts of the country also, right? Acknowledging that in California, even though it is hard in general to be undocumented, be an immigrant, have your challenges with your background stories, but other states are also even less likely to have events like these, less likely to talk about it. So I guess to some extent, I'm really happy that we can do this through Zoom and a lot more people in the country can join, and internationally as well. So you can see that there is a space for you, as challenges as they would be because of the experience that we just shared, but also knowing that you do belong in this space if you wanted to be in it, right? If that is what you're aspiring to be, that's what we're here for, to continue pushing. So when we actually came up with the idea of the hackathon, we knew that it was a big thing. A lot of people were doing it, but I'm like, okay, how are we going to do it? And honestly, I was very grateful to have that as a full-time opportunity. So I was actually spending this time with my colleague Alejandro, who were both, plus Sarai, who is the CEO of Dreamers Roadmap, we're day and night just creating a program. And that's another thing, right? You do not have to be super technical to make things happen in that way. So I personally didn't know how to code, but I'm like, I know that this is a big space that is important. I'm going to bring in my other skills to create and budget and schedule and organize an event that is going to gather a lot of people. So it actually started with a lot of conversations from before. A little bit of context was that UCLA Labor Center focused on stipends and fellowships that were for undocumented people. And the way that they were able to be paid is through stipends. So you're not an actual employee, you can be an independent contractor. And that way, if many of you don't know, you can actually do it that way. And also be an ally when you're talking to your own company. Can this a position be an independent contractor position? Could this be a stipend for an intern? That's a possibility that can provide actual monetary value to somebody who needs a job. So when we did that, actually there was some conversation, and they had their own connections. They connected with somebody who was an alumni from UCLA who worked at Netflix. And from there, we were able to connect with that ERG, and they loved the idea. They knew that there was money. That's the thing. There's money inside these companies that they're not spending. And because of the push for diversity that thankfully a lot of, our communities, particularly the Black community, also has pushed for, we are able to get this money that is waiting to be used. So asked in your companies, in the ERGs, how are we using this money? And so a lot of people in the ERGs actually were able to donate directly. And then close to our date, actually, there was a mysterious donation that doubled it, which we believe was the CEO, but nobody told us. But we were able to make that happen because we were a little far from the goal. But then when we doubled it, then we were able to actually use that money to fly people in from Atlanta, from the south of the United States, people who have no control over, what the state gives access to for undocumented people. And so even though it's a very small move towards it, because, there was not necessarily a connection to a specific job at the end of it, it was still part of the exposure that we can make it happen. So from there, that's where I met all those amazing people. They actually all volunteered to be part of it and help people code and understand everything. So all of that was very amazing to make it happen. And I think from there, we have been able to continue this connection and that impact, right? If you meet somebody today that maybe you are not sure how to get into tech, just connect with them. Maybe in 3-5 years, they will be in a position that can help you. They will have that referral. They will have that, resume, cover letter template to give you. So that's why it's so important to make those connections. And especially if you're very busy, just shoot your shot, be professional about it. But of course, we are here to support each other.
Yeah, thank you. That event was amazing. And just to give everyone perspective, the way they pulled that off was absolutely amazing. The employees of Netflix donated to the event. I'm not sure the amount of money they gave personally. The Uber chipped in, Lyft chipped in, Airbnb chipped in. It was, if I could say, like POC, like all stars. Like I was in a house that had more rooms just as many rooms as bathrooms. Like it was like 10 and 10. I'm like, what? Who lives here? But it was absolutely amazing. And anyone that went through it, it helped me kind of stay into technology.
Martin,
so now
we are forgetting the tacos. Okay, that event had tacos. Like I've never been to a hackathon that served fresh tacos, and it was amazing. My favorite.
Yeah, you gotta get local food.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and so yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was just amazing. Like I think at that time, I don't think I'd ever, or the Nest had ever gone to the Netflix at that time, and I'm like, there's a bunch like 50 people trying to create a solution for the immigrant community of the U.S. and the world. Absolutely amazing. So now I'm just in a rapid fire because we don't have that much time. So let's go, and I'm just going to give it to Itzel. So let's fast forward. So now so we can give some advice during the hiring process. What did you wish you knew before, now that you've gone through it? What advice would you give to other people going through it? Like what were you feeling, and what did you wish you'd know before going into it?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I didn't have any experience before. And I didn't get any internships due to my lack of Social Security. And another reason too, because no one around my family really knew about the whole process of internship and like how important it is. So since I didn't have that, now that I was able to like apply and I had like my certificates, I didn't like, my resume was just pretty much like, oh, Taco Bell, Cheesecake Factory, and now I want to be a software engineer. So it was definitely really tough. I went through a lot of people that helped me with my resume, and that's when I noticed that I have transferable skills. That even though, and I was teaching a school at a high school student, so I was able to break problems apart for students and actually explain them. So there's a lot of transferable skills that come from like just working at a restaurant, working with students that I didn't know. I thought you just needed to know how to code and that's it. So luckily, same thing. Like I reach out to so many people that gave me feedback on my resume, and obviously creating projects, that was a big thing. Like I knew you needed to put some projects there, but going above and beyond with the projects that you do is not just doing your homework. So that for me was pretty fun because for me, like there was a project in my family, we use tandas to pay for things because we that's how we pay for college or little things like that. So my aunt always does the tandas manually and like see who gives money at what week and what day and everything. So that was my project. I'm like, oh, I can help my family organize this stuff and they don't have to do it, on paper. So that was my fun project, that I was able to help my family get more organized, and also something that I could show off. But something, the most important thing that I didn't know was how much skills are transferable. Being a people person, being able to talk, being able to organize, those are skills that school doesn't give it to you sometimes. So make sure that you put those there, on your resume, those soft skills that they say, and make sure you highlight them. And how the words that you're supposed to, like, the numbers, like, I don't know, it's just a way. I still get help, but just reach out to people. But networking, it has been the key for every step of that I've gone through, from meeting amazing people like here in the panel, to networking, to getting an apprenticeship program, to getting my job at Cisco. If it wasn't because of an event, I wouldn't have had this job. I met my manager at a networking event. He became my mentor, and then he became my sponsor, and now he's my manager. So just keep going. And if you can't pay for, like, say, conferences that are really expensive, happened to me, I would just volunteer, and I will do my volunteering, and then I will talk with someone that worked there but volunteering too, and I will let them know, like, my story, like, I don't have money, but I volunteer and I want to learn about this. And they will give me a break. They're like, oh yeah, don't worry, take a break, go to this network, the session. So that's my way in. Like, I didn't have money, so I made it work somehow or another. And also put them there on your resume, what you learned. So always make sure that you're taking notes. There's so many words that are gonna come in, like apprenticeship. I thought they kept saying internships. I'm like, maybe they got it wrong. Like, and I went home and I'm like, apprenticeship. Oh, this is what an apprenticeship is. So yeah, just being open and talking to people, and make sure that in your resume you have transferable skills from other places that you've worked on.
Awesome, Ethan. That's amazing. So we have two more questions. One is going to be for Melissa, and the other one's going to be for everyone as a whole. So Melissa, I'm gonna take you back in time. First job offer there. What are the feelings that not only went through your mind, like what did you feel at that time, and what are some things that what feelings creeped in that you didn't think that they would come in, and what would you recommend, especially on the negotiating side? That's something that as first-gen individuals in tech that we're not used to advocating to say, I want blah, or I want, so take me back and share with everyone here how that was for you, and any advice that you could give.
Okay, so the transition for me from intern to full-time software developer, it was kind of also an interesting story. I thought I would be converted in my original team from intern to full-time, but then my team said they couldn't hire me. And then all of a sudden I was like trying to interview at other companies. I was trying to get referred to other teams. And it was a whirlwind. I was concerned because I didn't have any technical interview experience. So I tried to get some of that experience. I asked teammates for help. And ultimately, what helped me get my current job was the networking. I asked my manager to help me. I asked my teammates to help me. And then my manager's manager, the director of our team, she referred me to another director at Adobe. And that director interviewed me for 15 minutes, asked me where I wanted to work. I said, I'd like to work in San Francisco. And he shook my hand and said, welcome to Adobe. And I was like, what just happened? And that's how I got my first full-time job as a software developer. And the interview for that role involved me hanging out with that team for a full day during one of their official meetings. I didn't know what was happening. I almost fell asleep at certain points. I was so bored, not gonna lie. And then at the end of that day, I had like back-to-back interviews. Each one was like between 5 to 10 minutes. One was, how do I work with QEs? Because as developers, it's really important to work with QEs. You have to collaborate. Also, the other interview was how to do regex in terms of how would you find an email string. And then the last interview was with my now manager. And he just wanted to know, how did I like being with the team? And he wanted to know what my salary expectations were. So you asked, how do you advocate for yourself? And I used the information that I know. So before I was at that meeting, I had researched what is the average salary, what is comparable to a company of this size in this location. And Adobe pays fairly well. It's a really large company. So you have to take the company size into account. And what I asked for, I got more. Usually that doesn't happen in a salary negotiation, but my manager has, from the first day, been a huge advocate for me in everything. Remember, I mentioned I got promoted for my current role. I actually was on a leave of absence because my dad was in hospice in 2019, and I took a big chunk of time away from work. When I came back, my manager told me that I was still on track to get promoted. And I was so shocked. I was like, but I haven't been working that hard. I've been depressed. What are you talking about? And that's the type of people that you have to surround yourself with, advocates. He doesn't look anything like me. We don't share any like racial or ethnic identities, but he treats everyone like this. The other thing, it's for your first job, the most important thing is to be somewhere where you feel comfortable. You cannot learn if you feel unsafe, if you feel looked down on, if you feel like you don't belong, because that's what's going to always be on your mind. When I first did my internship, the first 2 weeks, I didn't do any work because I was scared. I was like, I don't understand what I'm doing. This has nothing to do with what I learned in my bootcamp. And then once I got over that hurdle and I started creating relationships with the people on my team, I started reaching out one-on-one. I said, hey, could you make 5 minutes with me? I would love to talk about what you do. Can you make some time for me? Can we go to lunch together? Can we have coffee? And then everyone on the team became my friend. So it wasn't me asking some strange entity for support. It was me relying on my friendship. And that's how networking works, honestly. Like, make friends wherever you go, because these people are going to advocate for you, are going to mentor you, are going to support you. And, you gotta be somewhere where you can belong, especially for your first job. A lot of people will take whatever comes their way, but you have to be a little bit discerning of whether that culture is going to benefit you. Because the paycheck will only take you so far, but if the company is oppressing you or the culture is oppressing you, you're going to have a really hard time not only learning in that role, but then leaving it, because you're never going to feel stable enough to then interview elsewhere. You're always going to feel that fog and that sadness, and that's going to affect everything else around you.
The entire time I was like, Melissa, preach. I'm like, So, bueno, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here. With that, I could have an hour conversation with each one of you. The podcast is going to happen. And so we've given you all the chisme, or to an extent. There's so much more. They all know that I created a lot of questions and that could go on forever, but we want to open it up for Q&A now for anyone with the 12 minutes that we have. If not, I have a bucket of questions I can pull out from. Feel free to drop them on the chat, to unmute yourself, whatever that is. Please do that. In the meantime, I will go to LinkedIn and start dropping these connections. Gotta connect. Gotta be like bam, bam, bam. Bueno, and then if not, no worries. I know you're all amazed. You're like, wow, they're all amazing, and they are.
I have a question.
Sure. I can't see you, but feel free. Introduce
Sorry,
yourself.
there we go. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, my name is India Eubank. I have a question for Melissa, actually. In terms of company culture, how do you go about learning more about what that specific company's culture is? And then how did you find it? How did you figure out how the culture was right for you? And then if it wasn't, how do you adapt, or how do you bring it up to make it better for you to be in that environment?
Those are great questions, India. In terms of knowing the culture for a company that you haven't worked at, I recommend informational interviews. So you can reach out to people over LinkedIn. You can send a message and say, hey, I'm really interested in working at your company. Could you please make some time for us to meet and talk about what that is like? So if you wanted to know about, is it Cisco itself? So if you wanted to learn about working at Cisco, you could reach out to her, or Odoo for Lily, or you can, if you want to learn about Adobe, you could reach out to me, and then I can describe it to you. But don't take one person's say, because some people drink more Kool-Aid than other people, okay? So one person might be like, oh my God, I love it. And then someone else will be like, I've had a really bad experience there. And you also have to take into account that every team is different, especially at a really big company. I don't think every team at Adobe is like mine, but I've been very fortunate in having had two teams and having really positive experiences on both, which leads me to think that maybe there's more good teams than bad teams. The other thing you can do is, if you're going into a new environment and a new company, try to gauge your manager. Sometimes the manager, it's a top-down effort, right? So the culture of the team is whatever your manager allows it to be. So my team culture is really great because my manager is really for work-life balance. He's really into socialization. So I send my teammates birthday presents once a year. We do like holiday get-togethers, things like that. And you can also ask these questions. It's like, what is the team culture like? What can I expect? How close are teammates? Do people get along? I mean, not that last one. However, there's always ways to find the information. There's also tools like Glassdoor. You can read reviews of people who are at the company or have left the company. And there's also applications like Blind, where people are anonymously posting about the companies. I haven't used it, but I've heard that people are fairly honest on those types of applications. And you can always do your part in terms of changing culture. You should never feel powerless about that. So if you have a good relationship with your manager, or even if you don't, try to find ways that you can introduce change, like invite everyone to lunch together, bring conversations into the space, advocate, join an ERG, see what you can organize. And then, sometimes bottom-up change can also be effective.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a really good question. Anyone else? I'm looking at the chat. don't feel, if I do want to say something. If you are feeling like I don't even know what to ask or what question, feel free to reach out to LinkedIn. If you have not, if you're like, I can't even bring anything to them that'll be of value. We want you to not feel like that, because we were all in your space where we're like, you're a really cool person, or I really want to talk to you. You're amazing. People hit you up all the time. And you probably won't see my message. That's kind of what when we were talking, that's how we all felt. We're like, wow, if I mess this up, that opportunity is gonna leave me. And if they don't respond, it's totally okay. Be like, hey, you know what, spam, I get it. My internet was down. You didn't see the thing. So just feel free to reach out and be like, hey, I saw you at NestFlight. I think you're super cool. Can we have like 50 minutes to talk? And even in that conversation, be like, I don't really know what to talk about. I want to be in the tech, don't really know what I want to do. What do you think, or how, like, these are my interests, where do you think I align? And that's really why we're here. We wanted to share all of that with all of you and create that connection, so that if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to me, you have Itzel, you have Melissa, you have Liliana in your corner to be like, no, you belong there and we want you there, and we will guide you to get there. I did get a message.
I wanted to add, kind of to the last point of the space that you're in. I've been also very grateful that I was looking for a job actually during COVID. And so I heard people getting a job within a month. I heard people getting a job within 6 months. You know, it's your own journey, and it might take a while, might be fast. It all depends on how you play the cards, but also where you are in the space to like really be going at it while you also have another job or taking care of other people. So it's gonna be difficult, but it will be worth it, because there will be spaces there, right? So thankfully for me, I could not figure out what kind of jobs I could get, because I was not technical. And so I was focusing more on people side, but a lot of people are not hiring in the last quarter of the year. So moving in, actually, I ended up just searching who's looking for a Spanish speaker, kind of like what Melissa did. I was like, okay, what is a good quality I have? And actually they are growing a lot of the Latin American teams. And so from there, I was able to find this job. And similarly, putting all of that into practice, all the advice, I actually reached out to the person who was going to interview me on LinkedIn. And then I saw that they had a connection with somebody I knew from college. So I asked that person, how do you know this person? And they were like, oh, I actually I interviewed with them. I was like, is it this specific position? They're like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I'm applying for it. What can you advise me? They walked me through the whole thing, because there was no way that I would know every single answer. But that person knew exactly, because it was literally the same position that they applied for. And it was actually very focused on supply chain, which is very businessy. And I knew about it, but I did not know specifically what they would ask me. And they got very specific, a 3-hour interview just about the supply chain. And then I had another hour sales, more focused interview. So all of that was very, very new to me, but I was able to go through it in this round because of the people that I knew, and because I was able to reach out. And actually a question about this was, if you're shy, how do you go about it? And it really does take time. So it's better to just start practicing now than later. When I was in college, I also cried because I had gone to a networking event, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't tell my story to all these people. And what if I get a no, which I did, right? I had asked about like visa sponsorships or international or like contractor positions. A lot of people had to say no, and I had gone home and cried. I was like, I can't do anything, right? And so all that frustration had to happen, unfortunately, for me to now feel like, okay, I'm talking to the next person. I'm like, okay, do you have a position that is a contractor position? They say no. Okay, cool. You know, I may not see you ever again. It's okay. I'll go to another person. So you definitely build that little by little. It may be, of course, very much difficult for people who are very shy, but also just anxiety. You get anxiety and different things like that. So there will be different ways to get that done, but definitely practice it, because the more you practice it, the better your pitch is going to come out, the better you're going to introduce yourself and sell your story in a way that it translates for other people. That person doesn't hear it, go to the next person. The next person might be the one that actually supports you. You never know in that instance. So definitely go for it.
Just want to add a little bit with that real quick. For me, it was really hard at the beginning too. But I remember when I went to this conference where a woman, Chantel, she works at Splunk. I love her because she kind of like blew my mind with fact that it takes step by steps. Like I remember when before COVID, like she will say like, just be present, go to networking events. That's okay. Go with a friend, maybe that way you don't feel uncomfortable. But if you go with a friend, then you're not pushing yourself to like talk to people. So I did the first thing. I just went by myself first, and it was too intimidating. So I went with a friend. So it's like, okay, a little bit. And the next time I didn't go with a friend again, but I kind of like introduced myself to someone, and they started to talk in a circle, and I didn't know what to say. So I'm like, okay, let me leave. So it's definitely step by step. But being present and continuing doing it, you get more comfortable, and then later on you got this and you already know your script on like, oh hi, my name is Itzel, I'm currently with this. And my go-to was always like, if I went to networking events, my go-to question was like, oh, so how do you heard about this event, or why are you here? And then that, you know, if that person is working there at a company or maybe it's a student. So there's definitely ways, but just practicing, like Lily said, it's definitely the way to go. It doesn't come easy, but as long as you're taking steps by little steps, you're going somewhere.
Wow, thank you all. I'm just being flooded with questions now. Val, I see your hand. So feel free to ask your question. You'll probably be the last question before I close out this event. And sorry for the organizers of Nest Flight that this is going longer.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you guys all so much for sharing your stories. They've been amazing to listen to. Also, being first generation, I think one of the things whenever I even get to be in a position where I can interview and stuff like that, I kind of struggle to see my experiences as strengths, whether that's like I'm first generation, so it's taken me an extra long time to finish school, or like not always having the right resources or answers or connections. So just kind of like in your tell me about yourself, how do you say like I'm first generation and that means resilience and strength? Like how do you do that?
Oof, that's a really good question. I can take a stab at it. It's evolved during time. At the beginning, I would be hesitant to really show the story. Now I'm at the point where if recruiters come and talk to me and they're like, oh hey, or whatever, you're interested in this position, I flat out say, I'm a non-traditional student. I'm a student engineer. I don't have a CS degree. If you think someone that has a college degree and if you have, are in that space, can do a better job than I can, then, feel free to go to them. You will not offend me. But I try to connect with people that can relate to me. But at the same time, really taking ownership of, let me show you the work that I did to get here and how that work can impact your company and the people in your team. Anyone else can feel free to answer as well. If not, Val, thank you so much for that question. I am looking now at Amber or to see, I don't think we're gonna do the raffle here. So I think I'll just close it, which is gonna kind of direction. Bueno, I'll improvise. Thank you all so much for being part of this. To Itzel and Melissa, I honor you. You are the rock stars of my life, and thank you so much for saying yes to being part of this, to being part of Nest Flight. Again, I will try to encapsulate all the questions that I see in the chat or that have been DM'd to me and share them with Itzel and Melissa and Liliana. If you have any questions, I will try to repost to LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to them. Go on social media, whatever avenues you can. And thank you so much for sharing this space. I appreciate all of you and honor you. And thank you, Nest Flight, for having us. And with that, I will shift it to the host.
Awesome. Gracias, Martin. And thank you, Itzel, Melissa, Liliana. It was so great hearing your stories. As a first gener myself, I think a lot of what you said resonated with me. And I think the crowd here is thanking you in the chat. I hope you're feeling that love. Really, I think for us, it's one of those things where we really have to make sure that we're stepping in as our full selves and into our full power. I think when I hear everything that the panelists just shared, I think about how a lot of the systems that are set in place right now were not set up for people of color, for a lot of minorities and underrepresented spaces. And that's why by showing up as our full selves, we can start to create and dismantle those practices where everybody can show up as their full selves. So thank you to the panelists for teaching us that by being yourself, by leading with your light and with your love, we can truly find happiness in our careers. And that's really the most important thing. I think if COVID has shown us anything, even if we're spending our time at home, is a lot of our time is spent with our colleagues, with our jobs and with our work. So whatever it is that you're choosing to do, make sure that it is somewhere where you are thriving and where you are happy.